In 2003, the foundation created the Herb Block Prize for editorial cartooning. Mr. Pat Bagley is our 6th winner, who was unanimously chosen by our 3-panel judges, who included Gary Trudeau, Jules Pfeiffer, and John Schifferlis. Mr. Bagley began his cartoon career in 1977 while attending Brigham Young University. Apparently, he doodled a political cartoon during his finance class and submitted it to his university paper, who published it. Shortly thereafter, it was reprinted in Time magazine. In 1979, Mr. Bagley was hired as the editorial cartoonist at the Salt Lake Tribune, where he still works today. In the early 1980s, People magazine picked him as one of America's leading editorial cartoonists. Born into a Republican family, he stated he was a Republican until the election of George W. Bush. Now Mr. Bagley describes himself as a moderate Republican who became a liberal independent during George W. Bush's presidency. He has written 4 books. His cartoons have appeared in the Washington Post, the Los Angeles Times, Newsweek, the Wall Street Journal, and he is syndicated in newspapers throughout the world. I am very pleased and very honored to present the Herb Block Prize for editorial cartooning to Pat Bagley.
I never thought I'd hear myself say these words, but Ted Koppel just stole my best penis lines. You know, it's pretty bad when you expect a cartoonist to raise the level of discussion. When Frank Swoboda of the Herb Block Foundation called to let me know that I had won this year's Herb Block Prize, I could tell that he was curious. And his question was, what is a liberal cartoonist like you doing in a state like Utah, which is the reddest state in the nation? And the short answer is, I'm gathering material. I mean, where else in the country can you have a woman who's got 8 kids and it's just ordinary? Is this going to be transcribed? Okay, why do women in Utah stop having kids at 42? It's because 43 are way too many. Utah is also responsible for giving you Karl Rove. Sorry about that. But today I have to remind myself, what we're doing here is celebrating Herb Block and his 100th anniversary of his birthday. Again, when Frank talked to me, I could tell he was trying to find some connection between me and Herb Block, so it would kind of tie itself up into a nice little package. And he was having a hard time with it. You know, we're separated by half a century. You know, on the one hand, Herb Block, hold on. Okay, Herb Block was from Chicago. I'm from Salt Lake. I'm a lapsed Mormon. Herb Block was a lapsed something. On the one hand, Herbert Block had a cool name. You know, you push it together and it says Herb Block. Okay, on the other hand, Pat Bagley, Pagley sounds really stupid. On the one hand, Herb Block had the good fortune to be cartooning during, up until that time, the worst presidency in the United States. I, on the other hand, wait a moment, we do have, actually, Herb Block and I do share quite a bit in common. You know, I read his life history and I thought, well, there's something in our DNA that has got to be similar here. We've had some of the same experiences. For example, in 1952, Herb Block, well, the Washington Post endorsed Eisenhower for president, and Herb Block did not like Ike, and he let it be known in his cartoons. Well, a few days before the election, the Washington Post polled the cartoons from their editorial pages so that Herblock was not allowed to voice his opinion. And in the end, it came out really bad for the Washington Post because people noticed that Herblock wasn't there. So Herblock and I have this thing in common, is that we've had to fight like cats to maintain our editorial independence. Now, in 2004, the Salt Lake Tribune let me know that they were going to endorse George Bush. And this was a move that I didn't appreciate, didn't agree with, because I thought, my first inclination when I heard that was to do a cartoon with an arrow pointing toward the editorial that said, "We're with stupid." But I knew that would get me in huge trouble. So what I eventually came up with that made everybody happy was a cartoon. The panel showed George Bush, and he's got that trademark vacant expression, and he's gazing out at you, the reader, and the caption is, "The choice is simple." So you can, you get it. When Christopher Columbus got back from America, he was in the court of Spain, and they were just chatting. And he said, "You know what? I can make an egg stand on end." And all of the courtiers said, "Well, let's see you do it." He goes, "No, you try first." So they all tried to make an egg stand on end, right? And of course, it just kind of wobbles over and it falls. And so they said, "It's your turn, Columbus. Show us how to do it." So he took a boiled egg and he cracked one of the ends and he set it up straight. And everybody said, "Well, anybody can do that." And he said, "But I did it first." So when I look back on Herblock, I think of Herblock as my Columbus, that Herblock showed me how to do political cartoons. Anybody can do it, but you needed somebody there to teach you. So the great Herblock is somebody that I grew up with. I remember seeing his cartoons in the paper, in Salt Lake City, and when I was growing up in Oceanside, he was always there. Tremendous influence. Now, what I wanted to do when I came here was to deliver a speech that would call down the wrath of God on all these CEOs who are getting bonuses, on the terrible state of our healthcare in this country, and I wanted to say, some horrible things about those loud-mouthed radio personalities who get their hands caught in the OxyContin jar. But what I realized is something that I, again, learned from Herblock. Instead of telling you, I'm going to show you. So, along with the great Herblock, I'll see you in the funny papers. Thank you.